Hello and welcome to the Pharmacy Informatics Professor 2020 with your host, Dr. Armin Simonian. Do you know how many drugs are out there that are FDA approved? Well, from what I found on my research, it's about 20,000 different drugs. And of course, we know that any given drug can be marketed and sold under a number of brand names, especially if the patent has ended and you have generics of that drug product. So I think typically we have, if you include over-the-counter medications, really 100,000 different products out there that could be dispensed in our pharmacies. Now, in the retail setting, there's no way that you can carry all 100,000 of those drugs. The inventory would just be too great on your shelves. You wouldn't have enough space, and it would take a lot of money to stock all of those drugs. So typically, in a retail pharmacy, you're going to stock the 5,000 or so top products that might be dispensed for the patients in your community, in your area. And similarly, in the hospital, depending on the type of hospital, the specialty, the size of the hospital, whether or not they provide cardiology services or oncology or other specialties, the formulary at a given hospital, the drugs that are carried within that hospital might range from anywhere from 3,000 to 10,000 products. So in the hospital setting, we do have to have a Pharmacy and Therapeutics Committee, a P&T committee, and it's the job of the P&T committee to decide which medications will be stocked and provided at that hospital. Now, the pharmacy informaticist, of course, is very interested in drugs that have been reviewed and approved by the P&T committee to be added to the hospital's formulary. You are going to be responsible for adding those medications to the formulary, building those within the EHR, and also building those within the automation systems that are used within your hospital. So the automated dispensing cabinets, and of course, it's going to be linked to barcode medication administration at the bedside, even in our smart pump formularies. So a lot of different areas that are affected in the realm of the work of the pharmacy informaticist, the EHR, and all related automation that we've applied to the medication use process. For everything to work in sync properly, we have to have those drugs built into the system in a similar, consistent fashion. They need to be identified from system to system and identified properly through interfaces. And so this is a major concern for the pharmacy informaticist. Now, recently, I saw an article that was published in May of 2021, very recent. And this was a set of guidelines, actually, that are put out by ASHP on formulary. So in today's Journal Club episode, I want to talk about this one article and talk about the pharmacy informaticist's interest in the hospital formulary. So let me bring up a presentation and we can start talking about this article. So this is ASHP guidelines on the Pharmacy and Therapeutics Committee formulary system. So they start at the beginning of this article. They begin with a definition of the formulary, which is a continually updated list of available medications and related information. So these medications that are approved for addition to the formulary should be medically appropriate for that institution, should be safe and cost effective. So we're not only concerned about therapy here, but for practical reasons, we're also very interested in the cost of these medications that we're adding to the formulary. The bottom line is that we want to best serve the interests of a given patient population. As I mentioned, depending on your hospital size, location, type of patients that are serviced, specialties, the formulary might be quite different. But it's up to the P&T committee to make this determination. Now, they do say right up front that In the composition of the P&T committee, the pharmacy informaticist should probably be a member of that committee, either ad hoc or a continual member of P&T, because it is so important, because everything we do is on the computer, because we have the EHR with CPOE and interfaces to automation applied to the medication use process. It's really critical for the pharmacy informaticist to be involved in every step of the way when we talk about drugs that are going to be used within that hospital. Now, there's a concept called therapeutic interchange. This is where the P&T committee can decide up front that we can substitute one chemical, one drug, for another. Now, it might be two drugs in the same class, and we might have a preferred agent. So an example of this, a couple of examples that I've dealt with in the past are, we know that there are quite a few beta blockers out there, and it's really impractical for a hospital to carry every single one of the 10 or dozen beta blockers out there. And so it's up to the P&T committee, or it was at that time, to try and decide which of those beta blockers would be the preferred agents within the hospital. And then the idea is, when a prescriber decides to prescribe a beta blocker that's not on the formulary, then we need to set it up within our EHR so that automatically pops up a informational guide that says, okay, within our hospital, our P&T has approved that for this beta blocker, we're going to substitute another beta blocker. And that's going to be our preferred agent. And that is our formulary item. And then we give the option for the prescriber to either go with the substitution, or if they really want that particular beta blocker that they originally want to prescribe, then they have to go through the non-formulary process to have that prescription reviewed by P&T, and if needed, get approval to order and dispense a non-formulary item. We've also done this with H2 antagonists and other drug classes where you have multiple products that could be prescribed that might be similar in efficacy, and based on costs and safety of those, and safety of a therapeutic substitution, then we can substitute one item for another. Another time this came up was with Norco when it first came out. So Norco versus Vicodin. At the time, Vicodin had, in certain strengths, 500 milligrams of acetaminophen, where Norco consistently had 300 milligrams. Now, I believe now all the products, all these combination opioids, have 300 milligrams of acetaminophen. But at the time, we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to be overdosing or, providing a toxic dose of acetaminophen throughout the day if the patient was in severe pain or moderate pain and on one of these opioid combinations and taking quite a few tablets a day. So we want to avoid going over that 4,000 milligram maximum for acetaminophen that was in those combos. And so we decided that we would make Norco the preferred product. And if a prescriber decided that they wanted the Vicodin, then we would just make a therapeutic substitution automatically to Norco. So these are some examples of drug classes that might be thought of when we're doing therapeutic substitution. And then, of course, emergency situations might come up where there's a drug recall or product is just not available, and you have to pick something else as a substitute for that product. And so again, this might be an example where the pharmacy informaticist works within the EHR drug database and CDS system to provide therapeutic substitution, a rule basically that will automatically substitute one product for another. And then, of course, make sure that um, the same type of formulary substitution is made in all of the downstream systems so that the right product is available within the automated dispensing cabinet and other systems for dispensing and documentation of that administration of that medication. So the use of the EHR to implement, guide, and evaluate decisions made by the P&T committee is essential. So here they talk about specifically within the guidelines about technology, the EHR. And as I mentioned up front, they talk about involving the pharmacy informaticist on the P&T committee so that the pharmacy informaticist is there from the start as soon as there's a drug approval. And then we want to make sure and build those drugs into the systems properly so that we have seamless ordering, preparation, dispensing, and administration and documentation of those doses of meds that are given to our patient. If this discussion was helpful for you, please like the video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll thank you for that. And in the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, look after the health of others, and I'll continue to work on more Journal Club episodes and other episodes, and I hope to see you next time. Take care.